Then of sound science and sound economics, we need to build a strong framework for international action. It's not new institutions that we need. Rather, we need to strengthen and improve those which already exist. In particular, the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Programme. The United Kingdom has recently more than doubled its contribution to UNEP, and we urge others who have not done so and who can afford it to do the same. And the central organs of the United Nations, like this General Assembly, must also be seized of a problem which reaches into virtually all aspects of their work and will do so still more in the future. The most pressing task which faces us at the international level is to negotiate a framework convention on climate change, a sort of good conduct guide for all nations. Fortunately, we have a model in the action already taken to protect the ozone layer. The Vienna Convention in 1985 and the Montreal Protocol in 1987 established landmarks in international law. They aim to prevent, rather than just cure, a global environmental problem. I believe we should aim to have a convention on global climate change ready by the time the World Conference on Environment and Development meets in 1992. That will be among the most important conferences the United Nations has ever held.
They just want to control the growth.
I hope that we shall all accept a responsibility to meet this timetable. The 1992 conference is indeed already being discussed among many countries in many places. And I draw particular attention to the very valuable discussion that members of the Commonwealth had under the Prime Minister of Malaysia's chairmanship at our recent Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kuala Lumpur. But a framework isn't enough. It will need to be filled out with specific undertakings or protocols in diplomatic language on the different aspects of climate change. These protocols must be binding, and there must be effective regimes to supervise and monitor their application. Otherwise, those nations which accept and abide by environmental agreements, thus adding to their industrial costs, will lose out competitively to those who do not. The negotiation of some of these protocols will undoubtedly be difficult, and no issue will be more contentious than the need to control emissions of carbon dioxide, the major contributor, apart from water vapor, to the greenhouse effect. We can't just do nothing, but the measures we take must be based on sound scientific analysis of the effect of the different gases and the ways in which these can be reduced. In the past, there's been a tendency to solve one problem at the expense of making others worse. The United Kingdom therefore proposes that we prolong the role of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change after it submits its report next year, so that it can provide an authoritative scientific base for the negotiation of this and other protocols. We can then agree to targets to reduce the greenhouse gases and how much individual countries should contribute to their achievement. We think it important that this should be done in a way which enables all our economies to continue to grow and develop. The challenge for our negotiators on matters like this is as great as for any disarmament treaty. The Intergovernmental Panel's work must remain on target, and we must not allow ourselves to be diverted into fruitless and divisive arguments. Time is too short for that. Before leaving the area where international action is needed, I would make a plea for a further global convention, one to serve and to conserve the infinite variety of species of plant and animal life which inhabit our planet. The tropical forests contain a half of the species in the world, so their disappearance is doubly damaging. And it is astonishing but true that our civilization, whose imagination has reached the boundaries of the universe, doesn't know to within a factor of 10 how many species the Earth supports. What we do know is that we're losing them at a reckless rate, between 3 and 50 each day on some estimates, species which could perhaps be helping us to advance the frontiers of medical science. We should act together to conserve this precious heritage. Every nation will need to make its contribution to the world effort. So I want to tell you how Britain intends to contribute, either by improving our own national performance in protecting the environment, or through the help that we give to others. And I shall tell you under 4 headings. First, we shall be introducing over the coming months a comprehensive system of pollution control to deal with all kinds of industrial pollution, whether to air, water, or land. We're encouraging British industry to develop new technologies to clean up the environment and minimize the amount of waste it produces, and we aim to recycle 50% of our household waste by the end of the century. Secondly, we shall be drawing up over the coming year our own environmental agenda for the decade ahead. That will cover energy, transport, agriculture, industry, everything which affects the environment. With regard to energy, we already have a £2 billion programme of improvements to reduce acid rain emissions from our power stations. We shall be looking more closely at the role of non-fossil fuel sources, including nuclear, in generating energy, and our latest legislation requires companies which supply electricity positively to promote energy efficiency. On transport, we shall look for ways to strengthen controls over vehicle emissions and to develop the lean burn engine, which offers a far better long-term solution than the 3-way catalyst in terms of carbon dioxide and the greenhouse effect. We've already reduced the tax on lead-free petrol to encourage its use. That's an example of using market-based incentives to promote good environmental practice, and we shall see whether there are other areas where this same principle can be applied. And with regard to agriculture, we recognize that farmers not only produce food, which they do with great efficiency, they need to conserve the beauty of the priceless heritage of our countryside. So we're therefore encouraging them to reduce the intensity of their methods and to conserve wildlife habitats. We're planting new woods and forests. Indeed, there's been a 50% increase in tree planting in Britain in the last 10 years. We also aim to reduce chemical inputs to the soil, and we're bringing forward measures to deal with the complex problem of nitrates in water. All that is part of our own 10-year program coming up to the end of this century. And third, we're increasing our investment in research into global environmental problems. I've already mentioned the Climate Change Centre that we are establishing. In addition, we're supporting our own scientists, and in particular the British Antarctic Survey's crucial contribution to the World Ocean Circulation Experiment, as well as the voyages of our aptly named research ship, the Charles Darwin. We've also provided more money for the climate and environment satellite monitoring programs of the European Space Agency. And fourth, we help poorer countries cope with their environmental problems through our aid program. We shall give special help to manage and preserve the tropical forests. We are already assisting in 20 countries and have recently signed agreements with India and Brazil. And as a new pledge, I can announce today that we aim to commit a further £100 million bilaterally to tropical forestry activities over the next 3 years, mostly within the framework of the Tropical Forestry Action Plan. That is all what we are doing in Britain under those 4 headings, all of those things. Mr. President, The environmental challenge, which confronts the whole world, demands an equivalent response.
Oh, is there one without pink drink? Huh? Is there one without pink drink?
You want, okay, you have this one, big plate. Why do you people like
Actually, I
that?
don't even like that.
Big plate.
It's just a big thing.
This.
No, not so much.
You want two or one?
I won't be coming back. But I was like, you know what? Someone's acting like that.
Oh! Internet.